So did you know that 1 in 5 people are not happy at all?
20% of the population?
Yeah, they're just like they're miserable people.
Well, what if the secret to happiness isn't exactly what we always thought it was?
Happiness, everybody wants it, but most people feel like they're missing the mark or missing out.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that. Hey, what are we, fucking mystical bears?
Yeah, let's talk about that. Welcome to Evolve, the #1 podcast about relationships. Join Greg and Leah as they embark on the deep topic of relationships, and not just the romantic ones. Think wider, deeper, broader. Tune in each week as they chat about things like our relationship with food, money, parents, kids, pets, self-esteem, and so much more. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the Evolve episodes. All right, so welcome to Evolve. I'm Leah.
I'm Greg.
And welcome if this is your first time. Thanks for being here. If it is, if you're back and coming back again, thank you. Thank you all for who are out there watching, listening, and tuning in each week. This week, I'm going to just open up by saying we're going to talk about happiness. You said 1 in 5 people, 20% of the population is just miserable. And when I say miserable, the data from Gallup.com is that on a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being I'm really unhappy, 10 being I am so euphorically happy I can't stand it, 20% of people said zero. Wow. Zero. That's pretty bad. So that they're miserable.
What about, so there's only, what I was saying before, if 20% are 0, that 80% is still from 1 to 10. That's not very happy.
Somewhere in between. Yeah, it's true. Somewhere in between. So honestly, this podcast topic came up because this morning I put out a post, which by the time you see this, it won't be the same morning. It'll be already probably buried under all the millions of posts that go out every day. But I put out a post about just ways that I have worked to be content in my life. And I feel like that's what happiness is to me, which I'm going to get into the actual definitions. We'll get into what is happiness, what do humans find as happiness, what are the things blocking our happiness and preventing us from being happy or content or fulfilled or joyful. But I put up a post of just a couple of things, and that made me think, like, what makes me happy? What makes people happy? And then I asked you, do you want to do this podcast on happiness? And what makes you happy? So we're going to dive into all of that. Do you think you're ready?
Well, what is happiness?
And what is happiness? So I actually asked ChatGPT this. Do you want to know the answer?
Sure.
I mean, do you have your own answer first?
For
like, what do
happiness?
you feel like is happiness for humans?
So I think there's happiness within and happiness without. So, and I think that a lot of people, or past programming on my own self, that happiness without is sinful, and there's no finding happiness. Nobody's ever looking within to find happiness. And so it's lust or that kind of stuff.
Pleasure
seeking. Because outward happiness. But I guess the older I get, I'm finding that inward happiness is a whole lot more fulfilling than the pleasures of outside. And then the pleasures of outside happen to be the benefits of being happy inside.
So what is as above, so below, what's within, so without, almost,
right.
so to speak.
Yeah.
Okay, I asked this specific question to ChatGPT. Define what happiness is to humans. Happiness, it says, is a multifaceted emotional state characterized by feelings of joy, satisfaction, contentment, and fulfillment. It encompasses both immediate experiences of pleasure and a deeper sense of meaning and purpose in life. So it's a fairly lengthy, very deep concept, abstract concept for sure. There isn't one thing that necessarily defines happiness. And even in philosophically, happiness has been discussed in terms of hedonia. Hope I'm saying it right. I've heard it said a couple different ways, which is the pursuit of pleasure and the avoidance of pain, which you were kind of just talking about. It's that outward, let me just find what makes me happy, which is often a cause of suffering.
And I was about to say is what most people are finding happiness, or the people that you're saying are miserable, that 20%. What are they suffering that they're not being happy? I mean, are they having the same life experiences as the other 80%, but they just have a different perspective?
They have a bad point of view, maybe?
Is it a different perspective? Or have they been really seriously dealt a shit full of cards?
Well, and that's like continuing on here, like some of the things that prevent happiness, that is very, like the biggest reasons humans have unhappiness is a lot of factors as well. But some of them could be behavioral patterns, like staying indoors excessively. Like we have a It's called nature deficient disorder. Now, and I learned about this when I was at the library, and I was like, oh my gosh, there are so many people not going outside. We were talking earlier when we were talking about happiness and building this podcast. I said, what were things that made you happy, even from your childhood? And you were saying
outdoors. That was the place where I would go.
Everybody was outdoors.
I mean, it just seemed like
there wasn't a lot to
actually,
do.
That wasn't really true.
What?
I mean, we say that, but I was outdoors, so I assumed everybody.
All of my friends were outdoors, and me.
And
I
all
mean,
my
for the
friends were
most of the
outdoors,
part.
but there were so
Yeah.
many people that were. My sister was never outdoors.
Yeah, it's true.
And there were so many people in our neighborhood that I didn't even know, because they did not come out, and we didn't have video games. Well,
there was, but I mean, it wasn't to the level of people like what we have now, where you could spend your life on it and make money on it too.
Right.
But also like social isolation. That also comes with just, we're so connected more than ever in society, ever in history, but yet we're more disconnected when it comes to socially, emotionally.
Well,
like, even though I can talk to you on the phone, it doesn't bring the same relationship that being with you does.
being like, I don't have well, I did have a Facebook page. I haven't entertained Facebook or any social media other than maybe YouTube in years, on my own personal level. And so much of it is a front for their acting happy. And so then the person's watching it says they get jealous of the
and that's
fake
one
life
of the
that's
other
already
things.
out
Comparison.
there.
Comparison kills happiness for sure.
Yeah, when we start comparing ourselves to others in
Yeah.
any kind of capacity, and there is
A healthy competition.
healthy competition, I guess. But when you are
But see, on social
vindictive
media,
and jealous, when you come, it's boiling over that they have space in your brain.
Yeah.
That's
I like the way you say it, of like, how much real estate does someone have in your head that's negatively impacting you? That's just, start selling that out, getting that real estate back for yourself. Going back to like this list of behavioral patterns, yes, staying indoors excessively is happening. Nature deficient disorder is a very real thing. Social isolation, substance abuse. We were talking about this. You added that to your list of what hasn't helped you find happiness is when you have alcohol, or like what other negative,
it's
toxic things do we do to ourselves?
Substances can be used as a crutch sometimes, and not to say that don't drink alcohol or don't have substances.
Sure.
I'm just saying that when you run to those things to get relief of something,
suffering.
So
you think you're relieving the suffering.
Yeah.
Lack of sleep is another one that affects our happiness. I can tell you that from coming from a premenopausal space. There was a good year and a half I spent where I was just always sleepless. I thought about sleep. I couldn't think about anything else. I envied people who I saw that slept. I got mad at you. I resented you because you could sleep really well. Physical inactivity and poor nutrition are also behavioral patterns that can loop us into unhappiness. Then there's cognitive patterns like persistent dissatisfaction. You're always seeing what you don't like, a negative future outlook, dwelling on past negative events. These are all things that humans stick to that create a negative point of view, create unhappiness, discontentment, and what are we doing to get out of these spirals? So when I put my post out this morning about just ways I've found to enjoy life a little bit better, I started writing and sharing, really, things that I have done. So we're gonna dive into that. These are just our personal happiness hacks. Hey, I like that.
Happiness hacks.
Happiness hacks. Okay, so we'll start with you.
So one of the hacks that I would do is go outside. Change where you're at. Getting outdoors was mine. What was one of yours?
So one of mine is that, and I put this also on my post earlier today, was humming and singing to myself. And a lot, because it literally changes your vibe. I didn't know that. I never like consciously did it to do that. And it's not just, I will not hum a whole song, as you and the boy know. I get stuck on a piece of a track that's like someone's just what do you call it on the record? Like it's stuck. Like I will sing the same portion in my head over and over again. But to me, it's, I don't know, I find it very relaxing and consoling. So it does sound very Spectrum.
It's like a riff over and over and over.
Yeah, so actually you and our son have said to me many times, like, change the track, and will touch me like, dude, but like, so that's one for me, is humming. You had also mentioned,
piggyback off of that, because music was another escape of mine, and I never realized.
So you're using the word escape again. Sure. Was it escape, or was it a zone of happiness for you? There's a difference. If escapism, and maybe it's both at
And
any given time.
I'm sure there's a fine line. If we escape from our unhappiness and into our happiness, that's a good thing, right? I mean, you're breaking out of the room of discomfort and into the room of comfort. And
next thing I have for mine, I did have go for walks, sit by water, and be in nature daily. So you already kind of said that, being outside. That is good for anyone. Since you already said that one, I'll skip to my next one, which was have animals in your life. Maybe not even your own. Maybe someone else's that you can go visit their horses and just pet them. It is already proven, and most of us know this, that when we pet an animal, it actually has the ability to calm our nervous system.
Our cat, man, whenever anybody in the house, that cat was a bitch.
She was pretty rough.
Most of the time. Every time. Until someone got injured or was upset.
Until someone, anytime someone cried, she would find you.
She would find them
just sit
and
by
she'd
you.
nurture that. Yeah, she
just was a presence.
Yeah, and so.
But I've also, piggybacking on that, like I was listening to something the other day that like when cats sit on your chest and purr, that their frequency is healing to us. It's healing to themselves. I'll say, but have animals in your life. I love being around babies, but I don't want any more babies. So I love, visiting people who have babies. So you don't have to have your own, but be around them. Find a zoo that you enjoy. And maybe you don't enjoy zoos because of captivity. There's plenty of animal farms and like yoga with goats, where you can just, have that whole like calming. But so that's one of my happiness hacks. Do you have another one that you would like to?
Yeah, so it was a big wave of this positive mental attitude thing. Before Way FM became a thing on 88.1. It was the same station. It was the positive mental what was it called? The motivation station.
Oh, I like that.
It was called the motivation
station.
So the since recorded times, there's the Earl Nightingales, the Brian Tracy's, the Zig Ziglar. Oh, Zig Ziglar, man, he was one of. And so, at the same time, I was getting interested in different businesses, and one of the businesses that I was looking into, their biggest thing was, how do you become rich? You hang around rich people. And if you don't know any personally that are rich, get a fucking tape or a book and be spending your time reading the book and seeing how they became rich. Yeah. And so my friends became Zig Ziglar. I mean, one of the greatest salesmen in the world. Then Anthony Robbins and everybody. Sure. I mean, lots of people know him by Tony Robbins now, but he came up through your.
So you had
generation.
A lot of tapes, and you would just listen to these because this was before CDs.
This station
it was on the station.
It was great because
right.
I instead of listening to my music there was talk. All the guys around work were listening to talk radio, and I'd listen to talk radio too. What a bunch of fucking shit. Even some of the. Well, you can get sucked into it because
like the drama of the day kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, they're talking about politics, or talking about the stock market, or talking about whatever. And there's always the right and the left and the this and the that and the other, and it was nothing but a bunch of bullshit.
So these are we'll get more into those things that take your happiness away.
Right.
But. So this motivation station was
all day long
really helpful for your happiness hack. That's one of your things you would say.
So on the way to.
So I'll piggyback on that again. I mean, I like kind of that we're volleying these things. So you're talking about like radio stations and listening to things. One of my things that I put on my post as well that just is all the time for me is read more. And audiobooks count. Audio lessons count. Motivation counts. Affirmations count as just reading to educate ourselves more. And I was sharing with you like some of the things that suck my happiness is old bad narratives of like you're stupid, you're white trash, you're never gonna be whatever. And I have to combat those and educate myself. So if I feel like the narrative of you're too stupid or you'll never get this, I need to educate myself and put in that time. And education happens through reading and listening and exposing ourselves to people smarter than us, like you're saying. So one of my happiness hacks is reading more. A hardcore book. So that's another one of mine is just read more. Educate yourself. So
I don't know if this piggybacks off of that, but later on after you and I met, then it became prayer.
You happiness hack at the season you were in your life, you're sharing, is prayer
prayer
and meditation.
Yeah, like I would say prayer and I pray or meditate now, and the same
energy
and force
vibe? Like what?
that I was meditating on then. I don't. Yeah. So that's a way to escape again from whatever is.
See, and I think that prayer and meditation is not an escapism to me. It is a way. So I'll tell you the next one for me, kind of align with this, is write or talk out things in your life. I think
Journal.
talking and writing stuff out, like I was going through something recently and I got to talk to a life coach, a peer coach of mine. I'm usually spending a lot of my time coaching others, boosting them up, getting them to think, getting them to list, getting them to talk out. I forget that I need the same thing. So when I was in this session and I got to be the client and I got to be heard and I got to be supported, I said, wow, after the session, I was like, just getting to talk this out. And then you as the coach asking me questions back that I wouldn't have thought about because you have an outside perspective. You're not emotionally attached to the situation.
That is incredibly awesome because I had these life coaches of mine, but I couldn't ask them questions. I could only listen to their dialogue.
Right, with the motivational speakers. It's a monologue that you're taking in.
Right, and so having a life coach is and I remember when life coaching I first heard of it.
It was the 90s when it started becoming a thing.
And I was like, who?
What kind of wuss would need a life coach?
And so that's what I thought. But all along, you've been being coaching. You've been coaching me.
We've been coaching each other.
So your life coaching.
That ability to talk stuff out. Prior to us getting on this recording, we sat down and you had asked me earlier today, because we were making this list about, what are the happiness hacks in your life and in my life. And you shared prayer and meditation and you said, what can we do together? If we used to sit and pray together, hold hands and really talk out, pray out loud. What can we do now that has the same energetic power and connection and affirmation? So we sat down and we wrote on little Post-it notes everything we want to come up in our lives and everything we need to change from negative to positive narratives.
And there's another hack.
Writing and talking.
That's another hack.
That's another happiness hack.
But we detached from all the things that we had some rules to it. You can't say anything negative, and you can't say what you don't want.
I don't want, because your brain still just sees what you're still focused on what you don't want. So don't do that.
Now you detach from that what you don't want, and now you're attaching to the things you want. And so any time you're wanting to get something new, if you're focusing on, let's say, a new relationship, and it's not coming, what do you need to disattach to so that new thing can come? Because a lot of times
I don't think we always realize, and that does take time to sit and self-reflect and be real honest with yourself, which that's why sitting and writing to me, or even talking to someone you really trust, which is another one on mine, have one really good friend. Really good friend. Now you can have more that you feel trust and safe with, and that you could tell them anything and you know that they're going to listen without judgment. You can have more. But at least have one that you can talk that out with. So I do have you. I have other family members. I have our son. I have other peer coaches now that I've built relationships with, because as we practice coaching together in our peer coach time, we end up sharing some really intimate, personal, difficult things. So you really bond very quickly. So just have at least one person to talk that out with who can be non-judgmental and just subjective in a different way. So us being able to, so some of these happiness hacks, I don't know if we've kind of spiraled a little bit or meshed a bunch, but writing things out, talking them out, having that person to sit and talk with. What is something else that you feel like has been helpful for you?
Goals. Oh, yeah. Setting goals is a great that's exactly what we did today with the writing. Our
some were setting of goals and some were affirmation building and narrative changing.
But setting goals gives you a focus and a purpose of doing something, and that's that was something that I think I've been doing from early on in life, because
but do you think that your motivational speakers taught you how to do that, or did your household teach you?
Probably, because some of the things that make you happy is fulfilling small little successes. So I started this, and you've kind of adapted it. I started making a list of 10 things to do every day.
Yeah.
And if your life is in a fucking shambles and you don't know where to start, write the 10 things down. I remember
Maybe you only have one thing though. Start with it.
When I was
something to
going through
accomplish.
divorce, I didn't know how. My whole world was spinning out of control,
Yeah.
and I didn't know how to grip it down. And I had to get myself. Of course, it didn't help with ADHD, but bringing it in and writing 10 things down, and I'd start with the very first thing and not do a goddamn thing.
Until that number one got done.
Number one, I could write a line
yeah.
through it, and then move to number 2. And there were some days that I didn't get past 2.
Yeah.
There were some days that I did all 10 and had to write more. And it got to be where I started gathering successes, little successes like that. Now, you can cheat sometimes. I was writing things down that I already did.
Oh, I still do that. I still do that because it is a dopamine rush, and I have shared that in other episodes. But that was one of mine as well, of just what that does is build self-confidence and build the narrative in you that I can set goals and I can accomplish them.
Yeah.
I can achieve whatever I want. So you're the one who taught me to make a list, because even though I've never been diagnosed with ADHD, you have. I wasn't, and I'm sure that someone could probably be like, oh, you absolutely have all the characteristics, just in a different form than yourself. But like, no one had taught me in my home, do this task until it's done, and then move on to another. And for the pure joy of success and completion, the perimeter.
Methodical.
Yeah.
I never heard of the word methodical before. And I started doing things methodically. And I found myself being able to,
get it done.
Get it done.
Yeah.
And get it done in a way where I wasn't like a freaking spirograph, you know?
Yeah. Well, that's what I was telling you. I was listening to this guy, and I'll put this in the description. Dan Martell had like 8 things to do to like stay productive and stuff. And was diagnosed with ADHD very young as well. And he said like he had to build those kind of systems in his life, that ADHD doesn't focus in very well. They'll be like, oh, over there. But if you already know the plan and the pattern, like a stencil, so to speak, of you always do this when you come in. You go around, and that way you know you've reached everything. You don't have to, because an ADHD person without that help, you'd spray over here, and then you'd go over there, and then you'd be over here. You'd miss so much.
It's true. And just like without you saying, nope, stop, don't do that, because you're real good at directing me. What was it we were talking about today? And you gave me a new rule, and that was it. Making rules for
about
myself.
Interrupting. You're like, oh, I don't want to interrupt. I'm like, well, that's kind of our life. And I said, well, just don't interrupt if it's really serious and I'm upset. And he's like, well, then that's a new rule. And I took that as you saying like, that makes it more complicated for your head of trying to keep track of all the rules.
Oh, no. That
and
makes
systems.
It's making it, okay, now that I know that, I can actually
Okay, so that would be one of your happiness hacks for someone with ADHD possibly, is having systems in place.
Oh, if you have ADHD and you don't have a system in place,
you probably should.
You need to have a system in place.
So continuing on our happiness hacks list, I had this one here, put your butt in the right place. I was just sharing this with someone the other day. Actually, in my own peer coaching, as the client, and just getting that support, she was asking me like, what can you do to change some of these narratives? We all do have very negative stories that run in our heads, probably from our past, or living in our rear view mirror, I'll say. So I said, oh, I forgot. We used to say this all the time back when we were in ministry, is where's your butt? And put your butt in the right place. And so by put your butt in the right place, too often we say the negative.
Right.
No, I'm sorry. We say the positive. I would love to go on vacation, but I can't afford. That's the way. So we're left. And I heard someone say, anytime you say but in a sentence, it's almost like you've erased what was prior to it. So now what you're left with is, but I can't afford.
Right.
So now this is what I'm just hearing in myself. I'm grounding it in. My subconscious is grabbing it. So yeah, we're not going to afford a vacation. So putting our butt in the right place, what I was saying in my session was, I need to start putting my negative first. So, gosh, I can't afford a vacation, but I bet I could find some resources to do so. So everything before that gets erased, and now it's, I can find resources to do what I need. So putting my butt in the right place has also been helpful for me, coming from a background. I've shared this. If you're ever on TikTok, check it out. I have a whole series going on of just my passion and past, and why my past has built my passion. And in one of them, I talk about building stories. Like we all do it in some ways, build stories on our head. Sometimes it's toxic and dangerous, but sometimes I think it kept me alive. I was finding the positive in every moment. I was finding the positive to just stay functioning. So just being able to put your butt in the right place is a happiness hack for me. All right, Gregory, so your turn. What is a happiness hack on your end?
So the times in my life where I was not happy, I could remember. And one, like I said, I would bury myself in the work. I did not do well. But I find where I start to find happiness. So if you're unhappy, start to find the things that give you joy. And
which I'm going to piggyback on that in a second.
okay, so cooking, and specifically cooking for others. So I enjoyed cooking.
Which made me marrying you really good because I can't cook. I appreciated that you love to cook and you liked having someone to cook for, so it worked out.
Especially if you have a rule that if you cook, the other person cleans. So.
Oh yeah, we did start that rule because I don't like cooking, so I have ended up doing a lot of cooking in my lifetime. But I wanted to piggyback on that one that you just said that. So I wrote in my post, find what you loved in school and do more of that. And think back, I want you to think why I'm sharing mine. But like maybe it's art, maybe it's social, interactions, maybe it's learning new stuff. What did you actually love when you were a kid and in school? So I loved art, and I use art a lot in my life coaching, especially when I'm coaching youth. It's really even great for adults too. When we did art class together, it's like you can get in a zone and you can just start relaxing. You can feel your blood pressure coming down. You can feel the problems kind of dissolving into the background. So art was huge for me. But go back to your education and your not education, but your childhood life. And the way that I wrote it was, what did you love doing in school? And do more of that. And maybe someone would be like, I loved sports, or I loved recess. Okay, what about recess did you like? Let's really hone in and get back to those happiness things.
Yeah, so, but that was kind of keeping your mind focused. Finding joy in I know that it sounds crazy, but I find my happiness just watching you.
I know you say that all the time, and I just can't even
From
wrap my head around it.
the moment I met you, it's just everything that you would do is like your quirky little this and your quirky little that. When we would drive down the road and your hand go.
Oh my goodness! So I'm just going to share this real quick. This is a little bit boastful on maybe our ends, but I have a big family, and this was the word someone used about you and how you feel about me, and they said, "Greg is smitten with her." And I think like that's your feeling. And I still, after 25 years, I just don't get it. Like when I say okay, I've always had a lot of passions and dreams and ideas and visions and goals, and not necessarily done all of them, but when I met you, I overwhelmed you with how much I wanted to do. And I ask you all the time, and for years on end, I've always said, what do you want to do? What's your answer?
Take care of you. That's
it. And I just how can you have no other vision? But I'm also very touched and moved by that wow, I still I
also want to sex the shit out of you all the time too. So don't get me wrong. I mean,
but so I am one of Greg's happiness hacks that you cannot have. Some of these you may do and definitely should do, but not me. I'm going to say also another one that was really good for me, that I think people are not okay with, and you need to get okay with it, is do things solo and get comfortable with yourself and in yourself. I have maybe mentioned this before, and it maybe sounds whatever, but I'm sure a lot of moms might relate, is that my best Mother's Day was when you visited your mom and you took the boy with you. I had the whole weekend, all of Friday, Saturday, and part of Sunday to myself. And I ended up having a great girls' night that Friday night. We had so much fun. I had dinner, we had talk, we had fun. And then on Saturday, I went to a horse show that was locally in town that they never would have sat through. I got to watch horses.
These days, I probably would.
You probably would now. And then on Sunday, Mother's Day, I took myself to a restaurant by myself. The poor waitress, I think it was just like, oh my gosh, are you a mom? And I said, I am. And she's just like, but where's your family? I'm like, they're on vacation. She's like, are you happy? I'm like, I am so happy. I had my book. I love to do things alone. And I think that was at first maybe a little bit difficult for you because it felt maybe threatening. Because if you're saying your whole life purpose and your happiness hack, one of them is to be with me and watch me and support me and, just, protect me, love me. If I'm saying I'm going to go over here by myself, what does that do to your goals, your happiness?
In the very beginning, it made me very uncomfortable and
Non-comfortable.
uncomfortable. Trying to think of jealous for that matter sometimes. That why would you not want to be with me? I want to be with you.
Right, right.
However, I've learned that if you have
know what's coming.
if you have your space, I have much better time when I do have my space. So and actually,
And what about you? Have you found?
I was going to say what it's taught me is that I can have my own space
Correct.
and be my own person as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
And I don't have to. I think that was one of the and we're probably digressing horribly right now, but one of the very first things that was communicated between, or one of the first ding moments of my life with you was, we don't have to like the same things to be friends.
Yeah, we were friends, and I said that.
And I was like, we don't?
Yeah.
We can have a disagreement and still
Well,
remain?
no, just we can have different hobbies, different interests, different excitements,
and so
pleasures.
What's happened over the course of the years, all of our pleasures have become combined, I guess. So,
But I would still say we have some of our own that are very
Sure.
unique. Like, I don't like to play chess. You guys have tried to teach me chess, you and the boy. I'm not interested in learning chess. I love to sit in the library for hours, a bookstore. I could walk it, sit in it. You guys, you especially, do a lap within 5 seconds and you're like, I'm ready to go. So I mean, we still have our own interests, but that was just a big one. I feel like that is important. A happiness hack is just learning solitude and the value that's in it. Really sitting with yourself a lot. Let's see, another one that I have is, let's see, absorb. I mean, we kind of said this a little bit, but this was one of the ones on my list that I posted, was absorb more positivity in life. So that could be podcasts or even TV shows. We used to watch like some really great family oriented, TV shows that just made you feel good about life and
I was gonna say
humanity.
that
And
one of the things that if you're unhappy is to turn the Comedy Central on or something. And
yeah,
watch
laugh. Oh, that was one of mine. Smile and laugh.
Just the action of that can change everything. Change your stance, change your position.
Yeah, change your story, change your
Sorry.
strategy. But also just, I mean, you can find positivity in music. You said how much music impacted you, and like certain moods create music desires, or
And
music creates certain
just
moods.
because this is so important that I have to say it.
You have to say it.
I do. Because just because somebody likes this style of music, and that, even though it to you and most other people it may sound like nails on a chalkboard.
Your music does to me, but that's okay.
That's why I'm saying it.
Yeah, I already know. You don't have
needs
to tell
be
me.
said that
Aye.
if you like a certain kind of music, and even it's all personal.
True.
However,
Yeah.
because
We don't have to like the same things.
We don't have to like the same
That's the
things.
goal. That's just what it is. But also people. Find more positive people in your life. I just posted a picture that
turn
showed
the
like
freaking television off.
yeah, and turn the TV off in the sense of absorbing negative news. That's
Well, one of the things
we
that
don't need constant negativity.
we were doing we tried to do all the time is mute the commercials. It's like if you
We do, yeah.
we don't pay for Prime TV, so we have to have commercials. So
Well, I'm sure that you even still do on those. But I'm talking about just having more positivity in your life with people specifically. If you find that your environment, your friends, your family are just negative Nellies constantly, find new people to hang out with.
there's a difference
Somewhere,
between a
somehow.
challenge and just a wall. If you can't.
What do you mean, in a relationship?
In a relationship or in whatever, if you're constantly having problems with an organization, any situation.
Oh,
again,
that's one that I did not add to my list.
What's that?
Is that like, for me, a happiness hack is I never go back and do the same thing twice. Truly.
well,
like,
and the reason for us is because every time we do, it makes us unhappy. So
But yeah, I've learned through my own pattern and my own experience and my own history that I don't like to do the same thing twice. Now, that's not literally across the board. Like,
Well,
obviously, I brush my teeth every night, and
we're
we eat
going to the
breakfast, lunch,
Grand
and dinner.
Canyon again.
But like,
And-
yes, if we're
and
gonna do something, it
we
has
do
to
have
be a little bit different.
Right.
Yes.
So we're going to go from the other side and go hiking down inside the canyon rather
Correct.
than around.
So, like, I've never gone back to a job that I've already had, other than our own business, helping you out after the boy was old enough to, like, be somewhere else. So, I just not going back. I don't repeat stuff. I said earlier, like, don't live in the rearview mirror. And how many people are living in the rearview mirror trying to go forward? How well do you drive looking in the rearview mirror? All right, so let's go into the last segment here. We're almost ready to wrap up here. that defining like big reasons that people are unhappy. We talked about that in the beginning, behavioral patterns, cognitive patterns, defining what happiness is. We started talking about that with hedonia, I think, is that pursuit of pleasure and pain, where eudaimonia, again, I hope I'm saying these right. These are the philosophical words here. Eudaimonia is living in accordance with one's true self and achieving personal fulfillment. And for myself, my biggest happiness hacks come when I'm not seeking affirmation, when I'm not seeking validation, when I'm not seeking attention, recognition, any of the outsourcing. And that has been the biggest sucker of happiness, I would say, is outwardly looking for, expecting, let's say you or anyone else in my life to make me feel happy. And that's where like eudaimonia to me is more resonating and more of a goal to seek when it comes to our happiness, because it's aligning with yourself and achieving personal fulfillment that doesn't depend on someone else's actions in my life.
Well, just because making you happy makes me happy doesn't mean that I have to give, that is how I get my happiness. Mm-hmm. One has to be happy within themselves before they can help somebody else. Put the gas mask on your...
Gas mask? Well, we are living in weird times.
The oxygen mask on yourself first. But yeah, yeah.
And that's where, like, I'm just going to go quickly through as we end and wrap up here. You know, what are some of your happiness hacks? These were ours. Is hum and sing to yourself a lot because it changes your vibes. Go for walks and sit by water. Be in nature every day. Have animals in your life. Doesn't have to be your own.
Yeah, they have all these places you can go to pet cats and stuff.
Oh yeah, cat cafes. Have at least one good person in your life that you can sit with, trust, talk things out, make daily to-do list as it builds our self-esteem and confidence. Put your butt in the right place. Read more, audio counts. Find what you love doing in school, do more of that, get back to that. Smile and laugh as much as possible, especially at ourselves. Don't take ourselves so seriously. Yeah. Set goals, short and long term, because it gives us that dopamine, that self-confidence that I can do this and I can be successful. Do things solo. Get super comfortable with and in yourself. Use positive self-talk. Start shifting negative inner narratives one at a time. Talk and or write out your thoughts, feelings, and frustrations. Get them out of you so you're able to actually evaluate them better. Absorb more positivity in your life through podcasts, TV, shows, music, people, books, meditations, affirmations. Change your focus, change your thoughts, prayer, meditation, exercise, cooking for others, your spouse, a best friend, adventure, and avoid the things that suck these out of you. These were just our hacks and happiness hacks, and we're not just saying a list of random things. We sat down and actually asked ourselves and one another and articulated and dictated, this is what makes me happy. And I will say, the more we do this, the more positive our future looks. Why?
We're focusing on energy towards something good and something...
Yeah, you're vibrating a higher frequency, Definitely. So you're also going to be attracting this stuff in your life. And it's not just a woo-woo. It's, I'll end with this. I saw a video that showed, how many people believe in radio waves and all this stuff that we can, microwaves. You can't see that, but we believe in it. We can't see atoms with our naked eye, but we believe in it. But how come people don't believe in, which we talked about last week, the energy of the moon and environment, what rocks and nature and air and trees and flowing water, and but the video I saw was a frog sitting in the water, and you know how in the summertime in Florida we had this a lot, but they'll start that mating call and it's like, and it just they get huge, their body fills up, and the video is this frog in water and these vibrations that come out. Like, it was amazingly cool, and it's like people believe in everything they can't see, but like there's also this happening all around us every day. Right. So what vibration are you sending out? What happiness hacks are you choosing to live by? And all of us spiral. We don't live in happiness. Yeah. Happiness is a season, and it's temporary, just like unhappiness and sadness is. It's moving through emotions. But like you mentioned earlier, when you're unhappy, what are you doing to get out of that? When you're spiraling, what am I doing to like anchor to something? And we all need to be able to go back to something.
Everybody wants is happiness within and happiness without. That's what from the drug addict on the street to the rock star on TV. It is just that they would like happiness within and happiness without, and it's a balance of both.
And also, I think I like the other definition of like seeking pleasure and avoiding pain. I don't think we can avoid pain. I think also if we can find the joy and the putting a meaning sometimes to the suffering times. Like, if we didn't have suffering, there wouldn't be happiness.
Well,
there really is the yin and yang to life.
There's a thought process in that is if I can control the suffering, I can have better joy and pay the suffering forward. True.
You're going to have suffering. Choose where it's going to be.
Go to the gym
when you can.
When you control. Can. take a hike, when you do these things now and take control of that little bit of suffering now, so you're not paying for the price
in the future. And or you can choose to live like on the couch eating junk food and doing
That's just
nothing with your
one
life,
area,
and
Baba,
you
yeah.
pay the price in the future.
Suffering, I think, can be managed.
I agree. So we would love to hear your, happiness hacks. If any of these were new for you or like maybe ignited into you, like, wow, I love that idea. I've never thought about that. Please comment, click, connect. And also if you need a life coach, that's what I do.
She does.
And I love doing that. I love being support for others. And a lot of my passion is because of my past, of just the things that I've suffered through, walked through, healed through, felt my way through, which was very difficult. That's part of that sitting with yourself and being comfortable with yourself is really being honest about some of the stuff that you've come through. But if you need help, reach out, myslc.org, and click connect. Let's see what's possible. And until next time,
Be evolving, people.